Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wages and Waivers Day. It's always great to see you here at the Capitol. It's so important that you make the effort to get here, and I know it's hard to get here. Here's why it's important to be here today. It's been nearly 25 years since the Supreme Court Olmstead decision, which said that people with disabilities have a right to state-funded services to live and thrive in their communities, rather than being forced to live in institutions. And it's been nearly 16 years since our state entered into a settlement agreement with the Department of Justice and committed to giving Georgians with intellectual and developmental disabilities the support they need to live in their own homes and lead productive lives. Since then, it's been a long, slow road and to truly give this community what it needs to thrive. I first became involved in this issue when I served in the House, fighting to end the waiting list for Medicaid waivers. And when I came back to the Senate 14 years later, the Medicaid home and community-based services waiting list was still there and was longer. I always tell my constituents that when they want something done in this building, you've got to be loud. We've made some progress in Georgia with IDD issues in recent years because this community has shown up and been loud. And because you've been loud, we increased funding for waivers from approximately 100 per year to 500. We passed Senate Bill 610 to make sure Georgia did reimbursement rate studies every 4 years so that wages for our service providers kept pace with the market. Senator John Albers and I co-sponsored a Senate study committee on Georgians with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we heard from hundreds of advocates, parents, caregivers, experts, and service providers all over Georgia about what we need for our state. Thanks to the study committee, we now have a roadmap to finally deliver on the promise that Georgia made 16 years ago to build on a comprehensive network of community supports. We know what to do, so we all have to get the work done. It's a simple 3-step process. 1, we need to pass Senate Bill 198, a Georgians with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Innovation Commission. This is modeled on the successful Behavioral Health Commission, made up of experts and advocates that will roll up their sleeves and work on updated solutions to the long-term challenges of Georgians with IDD and the challenges they face. They'll tackle issues like supportive employment, housing, managed care, and more. The Commission will help more people with IDD gain independence and help them contribute to their communities. Senate Bill 198 passed the Senate Health and Human Services Committee last week. Now we need to get it to the Senate floor and through the House. Number 2, we must fully fund the service provider rate study in the FY 24-25 budget. We have been losing ground with our talented case givers. We're losing them to other paying jobs, better paying jobs in the marketplace. So even if we wanted to end the Medicaid waiting list today, we wouldn't be able to keep up with the demand. DBHDD Commissioner Kevin Tanner estimates that this rate study could increase our provider rates by as much as 40%. These service providers give so much of themselves. We need to take care of our caregivers. Finally, number 3, we need to end the waiting list for now and comp waivers once and for all. That is now within sight. Thanks to the work of Commissioner Tanner, the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, and the support of my colleagues, this is now a very real reality. This is the work that we still have left to do, and this is why we need to keep showing up and why we have to be loud. Do we have any legislators here this morning? I don't see any. Okay. I now want to introduce members of this community who are going to speak about why getting this work done is so important. So first, we have Dorothy Harris.
Hello. My name is Dorothy Harris. I live in Fishkill, Georgia. I'm a state and area self-advocate with the United for Change. We are a grassroots network of self-advocates across the state. We support people with intellectual developmental disability. I am passionate about self-advocacy and have been a part of People First official chapter for over 20 years and a member of the Georgia Council of Developmental Disability. Today, I would like to talk about how important Senate Bill 198 for self-advocate is important because there has to be a group of legislators who learn and listen and better understand what we need so that we can grow as a contributing citizens in our community. A commission will give us a place and a government official to discuss our hopes and dreams and issues like transportation, marriage penalty, real employment, affordable housing, so we don't have to live with 4 people if we don't want to. We need to be at the table because we are registered voters and we vote and our voices count. It's also important that the governor provides the funding that is needed for our direct support professional or DSPs. DSP is the person that spends the most time with us doing our daily activities and support our routines. We need our DSP to make a livable wage, just like anyone that works at McDonald's and Burger King. We have a relationship with our DSP and we trust them and they listen and know that our label or IDDD do not make us and define us. They listen. We all have gifts just like you. The self-advocacy for United for Change are getting to know their legislators better so we can be seen. That's our responsibility as advocates. We will continue and advocate and rise up and speak out. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dorothy. Well said. Next, we have Diane Willish, founder of the Service Providers Association for Developmental Disabilities, who has been a tremendous partner in this work. Thank you.
We only have a little bit of time, right? Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you, kind of reinforce what our Senators Harrell mentioned to you, which is we really must pass Senate Bill 198. We operate in an antiquated system and a highly complex, somewhat inefficient system. It is very challenging for families and individuals to navigate, and we surely can do better. So to that end, we need passage of SB 198 in order to assure we move IDD services into the 21st century. The next thing I want to point out is we must pass the rate models and the funding. We are super grateful to the governor for taking the bold step and putting it in his budget, which, since I'm an old dog and been here forever, I can tell you has never, ever happened before. So this is a milestone step and a critical one in order for us to provide supports and hire caregivers, direct support professionals to do the important work and support individuals. The rates were the first time there's been a comprehensive study of the funding of this system since, believe it or not, 1990. We can do better. So we must pass the budget. And finally, I want to talk about the waiting list. Again, as Senator Harrell mentioned, this has gone on entirely too long. Individuals are waiting for supports and services that are so vital to avert crisis, to support people in a way that they should be supported in their local communities with their families. It occurred to me last night when I was preparing to be here that telling a family to wait for IDD support services, to wait for a waiver, is like telling a hungry family to wait for food stamps. This is sustenance. These services keep families together and avert crisis, and we have to stop making people wait. There's no reason to do this. So, all that said, I appreciate the opportunity to share a provider's point of view, and thank you, and let's get this done.
Thank you, Diane. Everybody on the steps. I know it's hard to stand there. Keep it up. I've been on those steps a number of times. Thank you. Next up, we have Thais Kaiser, a parent advocate from Johns Creek.
Good morning. My name is Thais Kaiser. I am a mom from Johns Creek, and I have raised 3 beautiful sons. My oldest son, Isaiah, is 22 and has autism, intellectual disability, and he struggles with a mental illness. I am here on behalf of him and for Unlock Georgia, a broad-based coalition whose mission is to expand and enhance home and community-based services to fully support Georgians with intellectual disabilities. My son Isaiah has many daily struggles. He's challenged with daily living skills. He needs support to dress himself appropriately. He doesn't grasp the concept of time, money. His reading level is at a kindergarten level. Isaiah needs help with the simplest things, like pouring milk. He needs long-term support for the rest of his life. I am one of the parents that is here advocating to get my child on the Now and Comp list. I applied 4 times and I was denied 4 times. The last resort was to sue the Department of Behavioral Health. After spending $60,000 in expenses, I won. After years of fighting, Isaiah was finally deemed eligible for the Now and Comp waiver services. It was emotionally, financially draining for me and my family, and that was just to get my son a spot on the list. Technically, we do not have the waiver. For families in my situation, this is a fight that they can't afford. Families with autistic children are reaching out for help they need and deserve, only to be met with a system that is working against them. I will never, ever stop fighting for this community. Today, I'm here to support the 3 key advocacy initiatives for this season. One, which is the 2,400 spots for the Now and Comp waivers. We want a reduction, at least a reduction on this list. Eliminating the current list has 7,000 people waiting, my son being one of those individuals. Higher wages for direct supporting professionals, advocates supporting the addition, which it comes to be about $79 million from the Department of Behavioral Health's budget for the 2025 fiscal year that was implemented on the IDD rate study services. Third, the passage of the Senate Bill 198 that will establish an IDD commission. Establishing would create a forum for comprehensive discussions aimed at better supporting individuals with IDD. Critical issues including Medicaid waivers, employment opportunities, housing, accessible health care, it's in need of attention. By fostering a dialogue and collaborating, the Commission would enhance an understanding of the unique supports and need required for individuals to thrive in their communities. I want to improve the current system, and I'm here to help. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Thais. We have a legislator who has come, and I'd like him to say a few words. Representative Long Tran.
Thank you, Senator Harrell. Good morning. My name is Long Tran, State Representative of House District 80, and it's an honor to be here this morning as we continue to talk about how great the state of Georgia is, being the #1 state to do business and trying to become the #1 state to live. We have to become the best state, the leading state in which we have no waiting list for our families struggling with IDD. There's no reason why we can't achieve that while being the #1 state to do business, and we have to pass Senate Bill 198. And so, thank you for being here this morning. Continue to advocate for your families. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tran. And to those of you on the steps, we're going to take a few questions and you can move, okay? We would like to take any questions, and if my experts can come up and join me so that the person who has the expertise in the issue can respond.
We got you, Sally.
Okay. Questions? Okay, I guess we made, okay. Serving how many? Okay. Okay. The question is that the Commissioner of DBHDD has come up with a plan for serving 900 people getting them off the waiting list each year. The commissioner has, I'll let other people address this too, but the commissioner has been very friendly to all of the recommendations that were made for the study committee and has in fact been working on a number of those items even without a commission. And one of the things he has worked so hard on is improving processes within the department. So I think that is 900 is very doable. I personally think we could do more than that.
Thank you, Sally. Hey, thank you for the question. I'm Darcy Robb with the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities. I agree. We really appreciate our partnership with Commissioner Tanner and his team, and I am confident we are moving the system in the right direction. We're going to continue to move it. But frankly, GCDD's stance, 900 a year, we need to do more. The wait list has hovered between 6,000 and 8,000 for over a decade. GCDD put together a chart that shows both the new waivers and the attrition, and we've been treading water on the waiting list for at least 12 years now. The other piece of the waiting list that I need to point out, two pieces. Number one, Georgia has a very high bar for qualifying for a now or comp waiver. In many other states, including our neighboring state, Tennessee, more folks are eligible for waiver support than they are here in Georgia. So Georgia has a high bar. The other thing I think it's important to note, not everyone eligible for a waiver is on the waiting list. And one of the ways we know that is that when people are abandoned in emergency rooms, which is happening to individuals with developmental disabilities, it is a crisis, and that's something Commissioner Tanner and his team have been working on. But when those folks are abandoned in emergency rooms, they fall into three groups. One group is people who have a waiver and have had a crisis. One group is people on the waiting list. The third group is people not even known to the state of Georgia. So, we want to end the waiting list, full stop.
All right. In Senate Bill 198, the commission is, it's planned for the commission to meet for 5 years. I think it would be reasonable to make a goal of ending the waiting list in that 5 years. Yes. Okay, the question is, what are the wages for our debt service providers? What are they making now? What do they need to make? And how much do we need to bulk up the workforce? And I'm going to have Diane Willish answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the question, because it's super important. The most recent data that we have is that Georgia exceeds the national average in the turnover rate of direct support professionals, as we call them, DSPs. Our turnover rate, statewide average, is about 43%. We don't have the most current data, that is 22 data. We should have the new information very shortly, actually. I think that the information is that the average wage is around $13. The waivers, without this rate model, fund wages at $10.63. So that's the reimbursement, that's what's built into the funding. The new weights will bring that wage to $16.70. And again, we are so very grateful for that positive change. However, I will tell you, that's like a down payment. Wages need to be at $18 to $20 an hour in order for us to recruit and retain high caliber staff in these positions. Organizations continually churn people for that first year or so because it's such a challenging and difficult job, but so very important and valued. We can do better. So the rate models, passing that will be one part. And then we're due, thanks to Senator Harrell, to have another rate study in 2 years. And we need to address wages again. We can't, I don't want to hear that, well, we already gave you money. This is the first money, really, since 1990. So there you have it. Woo.
Other questions? Yes.
And you know that in that 900, he's including the attrition. That happens anyway. So they're all okay, yeah, because that's like smoking measles.
So the question or the observation was that the wait time on the waiting list is like 4 years. And what are we going to do to reduce that wait time? That's why we're having this advocacy today, because it's going to take both funding more waivers each year and increasing wages so that we can get rid of both waiting lists, the one for waivers and the ones for services. So that's why we're here today, and that's why we're developing this commission to keep track of this issue, to make sure we're moving forward on those goals. That will reduce the wait. Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes.
Average what? Wait time. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay, so the observation is that we have a lot of doctors here today. And so the question is, what can you all do to help us serve people with developmental disabilities in their communities? Would anyone like to speak? Thank you. Thank you for your support.
I can offer ideas.
Yes.
I'm president of the Medical Association.
Would you like to speak? Do you
Yes,
know
just
about the
quickly.
waiting list?
Don't know about the waiting list, but we are committed to mental health. We are working with Kevin Tanner, and you'll hear a little bit more about this. But we are very committed to reaching out to our patients in Georgia, addressing these mental health issues. It's starting with our young all the way up. You'll see more and more of us activity out there. So thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so the question is, how do we address the workforce needs for the direct service providers in the rural areas of the state?
Again, it's a wage issue. It's simply a wage issue. If we had adequate wages, the recruitment of people, even in rural areas, would be much increased. I don't think, even when you have a thinner population, that if you have a wage that's commensurate with the work and the value of the work, I don't think that recruitment is as much of a challenge. Make sense?
Also, one of the recommendations from the study committee was to take steps to professionalize direct service workers' careers through maybe some sort of certification process.
I should have mentioned as well to give some credit to the Department of Behavioral Health, because they are piloting credentialing pathways so that direct support professionals can receive a credential at a 1, 2, 3 level, which would then add income. So you'd start at a base rate and then if you got credentialed, you go up and a credential 2, 3, and so forth. They are using ARPA funds to fund 3 projects throughout the state. One of them is through UGA, one is with the Department of Labor, and one is with United Cerebral Palsy. So that also demonstrates their commitment to this wage issue. They want to build a credentialing process into the rates. So that is huge progress and very meaningful.
Okay, I had a question from behind me about the commission. And the question was, who is going to be appointed by the commission, what type of people, and by whom? Senate Bill 198 spells out exactly the kind of experts and consumers who need to be brought into the commission. The appointments will be made by the lieutenant governor, the governor, and the Speaker of the House. And specifically it was asked, how do we ensure that people of color are appointed to that commission? And I would say we're going to have to be allowed again. And as we as a community think about who needs to be on that commission, we're going to need to think about diversity of experience being represented and make recommendations to those 3 elected officials to make sure the appointments are inclusive. So again, it's part of being loud. Any other questions? The question is, do I have a sense for when the bill will get a vote in the chamber? I will say it passed unanimously out of Health and Human Services. This is a very good sign. I will be going to Rules today to ask the Rules Committee to move on the bill and bring it to the House floor. So I'm hopeful that might happen before crossover day. Anybody else? I see another legislator here, Representative Viola Davis. Would you like to say hello? Okay, let's just recognize that she is here supporting us. And I see another representative. Would you like to come up and say a word?
Hello, everyone. I'm Representative Teddy Reese from Columbus, Georgia, and I have some of my constituents here today. This is a worthy cause. I just implore you to continue to fight, continue to stay in the fight, stay strong, and this is where it gets done. You have to show up. If you're not here being an advocate for yourself, and I'm sure Rep. Davis would agree with this, then your issues will not be heard. So this is a very important step. We're glad to have you here today. Talk to as many leaders as you possibly can and make sure they understand what's important and what you're passionate about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Reese. I know these people on the steps are getting tired of standing. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all for coming. And a special thanks to the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities for their partnership and for organizing the Wages and Waivers Advocacy Day. Thank you, everyone, and go be loud.